This is Ted Marchesi, Pat's longtime collaborator at the American Association for Higher Education. In 1984, with help from Clifford Adelman, we pried $75,000 loose from the Department of Education and ran a conference in Columbia, South Carolina on this new thing called assessment. To our astonishment, 700 people showed up for this. And we knew afterwards, as we were scratching our heads about this, that something important was going on. So we applied to FIPSI, got a 3-year substantial grant from them to create something called the AHE Assessment Forum. And that meant we had to find a director. And for that, we turned to the then most active institution in the country on the assessment front, which was Alverno College, and to Pat Hutchings, because when the AHE board met at Alverno that spring, the faculty member they trotted out to tell us how this all worked in teaching and learning was Pat Hutchings. So I brought Pat to Washington, and we had long conversations about what the AHE Assessment Forum might be. And at the end of that, I sent her in to talk with the president of AHE, Russ Edgerton. And Russ furrowed his brow as he would, and he looks at her resume and he goes, "What is this? You're a poet. What kind of a poet?" And Pat says, "Hard-edged, urban." Russ, unflummoxed by this, continued with the interview, at the end of which he asked Pat, if we offered you this job, would you be in a position to accept it? Pat said, "Oh, Ted's already offered me the job and I've accepted."
Pat, George Koo here, joining the chorus of your colleagues, sending hearty and heartfelt congrats on the 2020 Trudy Bamta Lifetime Achievement Award in Assessment. Nobody is more deserving of this recognition. You were right there pushing early on the assessment bandwagon as it started rolling across the landscape in the 1980s. And we were all delighted when you joined the good ship NALOA as a senior scholar. Terrific contributions you've made to NALOA since that groundbreaking work on assignment design. I mean, you are, you've heard this before, and I know many others must have said it and experienced it as I did, a first-rate collaborator, always the first to respond with cogent, helpful, actionable comments.
Paullingenfelter, and I've had the privilege of working with Pat, both as a member of the NESE National Advisory Board and as a senior scholar at NALOA. I've never met anyone who is more committed to effective, goal-driven instruction and deep student learning than Pat Hutchings. And I've never met anyone who's more thoughtful or more skillful than Pat in listening carefully to others and leading a discussion toward a productive outcome.
Hello, I'm Gillian Kinsey, and I just want to pile on my congratulations to Pat Hutchings. Thank you, Pat, for being a pioneer in the field of assessment and for devoting your career to the betterment of teaching and learning in higher education. Your contributions, particularly your foundational work, carving out the field of the scholarship of teaching and learning, and to shaping the contours of assessment for improvements to student learning and educational effectiveness have been masterful. Congratulations on being a master practitioner of assessment.
Hi, Pat. For those who don't know us and our relationship, I'm Lee Shulman, and you and I spent 12 years in adjoining offices practically at the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. And we worked on the peer review of teaching, a crazy, outrageous idea that if teaching were to become as important as traditional research, what it lacked was peer review. And one of the happiest days of my life was when a number of years later, I asked, might you even consider coming to join us at the Carnegie Foundation? And you said yes. What's really important about this award that you're getting is it recognizes that you understood from the very beginning that work in the scholarship of teaching and learning, whether focused on teaching, learning, assessment, student development, could only succeed if it became not a top-down mandate, but part of the mind and heart of every faculty member. It had to become part of their habits of mind and heart. And bless you, Pat. We need you.
Mary Huber. I'm a colleague of Pat's from long ago and continuing today. And most important contributions to assessment work has been her ability to translate theory into practice. So anyone who has ever joined Pat, even for just a workshop, knows that the hallmarks of her touch include the things we experienced in Castle: high structure, high challenge, and high enjoyability. And finally, let me just end with an appreciation of Pat as a partner in crime. Now, if you've had the opportunity to work with Pat, you will also appreciate how imaginatively she thinks, how quickly she works, and how beautifully she writes.
I'm Peter Ewell, Vice President Emeritus of NCHEMS, the National Center for Higher Education Management Systems, and Senior Scholar for NELOA. I first met Pat when she came from Alverno College in 1986, a long time ago, to become the first founding director of the AAHE Assessment Forum. Two things that have most impressed me about Pat over the years watching her work. The first is attention to practical details. Her style in actually directing a discussion always fascinated me as well, because she really wouldn't say anything for a while. She'd sit there and watch and sort of listen, and frequently perched on a chair cross-legged, and just listen and listen for what the themes were. And then she would sort of timidly put up her hand and say, "I have a question." And the question was always exactly right.